I'm Tom Parker and welcome to Voices from the CEPS Ideas Lab. In this episode, I spoke with Dr. Ron Boschma. Dr. Boschma is Professor in Regional Economics at Utrecht University. During our interview, we explored how a smarter, regionally tailored approach to EU competitiveness could unlock new opportunities for growth and ensure that economic policies reflect the unique strengths of different regions. I hope you enjoy the episode. Well, Ron, welcome. Thanks very much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
And for me and for some other listeners out there who don't know enough about this topic, could you explain a little bit more about what evolutionary economic geography is all about?
Right. So I think the main focus of evolutionary economic geography is to provide an explanation why some regions grow more than other regions, why some activities are heavily concentrated in one particular area. Think about why the film industry is located in Hollywood, or the car industry is concentrated in Detroit. And taking an evolutionary perspective, you provide additional insights to, let's say, mainstream economics that would very much look at marketed processes. While evolutionary economic geography would tend to focus more on the idea of capabilities that you need to develop an industry like in Detroit. There were a lot of capabilities around on which this industry could build. And therefore it gained a comparative advantage, which was really hard to copy by other territories. So I think to me, that's the essence of an evolutionary approach to economic geography that is very different from, let's say, mainstream economics that provide very different explanations.
Well, I always thought, films in LA is because half a film is shot outside, and you wouldn't want it to be too sunny while you're working in a factory, so it has to be in Detroit.
Well, it's more difficult than that.
Yeah, of course. I jest.
Because in a way the film industry is really project-based industry in which, of course, people come together to produce a film. So you need many people, many specialists that have to come together to work on such a project, and they're all around in Hollywood. So it would be very easy to recruit those people. Who is whom in that particular trade, and therefore it's much more easy to concentrate and to get the best people in that particular place. If you're not around there, you will not have access to those people. You don't know about the latest, you don't know about the latest trends in the film industry, and therefore you have to be there, and that is self-reinforcing, right? So, and therefore it's very hard to compete by other places all around the world in order to build a competitive film industry. Unless you're in India, right? When you're in, of course, the Indian film industry. That's the same story. It's also heavily concentrated in one particular place in India. But the Indian film industry is very much focused on a different type of film, which is very unique to India, and therefore you don't see any productions in Hollywood that make Indian films because they lack that type of competences, the capabilities to produce those. So again, you have to be there in India to matter in that industry, and therefore you find that concentration.
Well, let's bring it back to Europe. Because of the diverse arrangement of the 27 member states in Europe, let's look at how the EU budget must work. When you're talking about competitiveness in the context of evolutionary economic geography, let's discuss that. How does the EU address its diversity across that when it's looking at an EU budget?
Oh, it does very much so. I think when I think about the competitive, just the Draghi report was launched a few months ago. Of course, attracted a lot of attention. And one of the claims that the report makes is that Europe is really poor on emerging technologies, lacks a bit of focus, does not set priorities, does not collaborate enough. I think here you need an evolutionary perspective in order to give that more body, because what Draghi was not really explaining well, that all member states in a way can contribute to that particular mission, because each country and each region inside the country have accumulated very specific capabilities that provide opportunities to move into new technologies, but it set also limits what you can achieve. So many regions, many member states would like to participate in AI, but there are very few regions, very few member states that actually can do that because they have the capabilities to do so. Now, every member state, they have opportunities, but the opportunities will differ from region to region because the capabilities are very different. So all what you have to do is to identify those opportunities. And there are methods to do that. I myself have been very much engaged in this type of research. So we can map out for each member state, for each region, what type of opportunities they have. And they should really exploit those in building a competitive policy.
Well, what key factors should be considered when evaluating the effectiveness of a single competitiveness fund in fostering economic growth and innovation across the EU?
Well, that goes back to what I said before, right? So you really have to take capabilities that are around as a point of departure. So again, if you really want to build something in which you want to gain a competitive advantage worldwide, it means you have to work on the capabilities that are present in the region. Let me just take an example. Now we have a tech champion in Europe, which is ASML in the Eindhoven region. And that actually is a spin-off of the capabilities. It's actually a spin-off of Philips that was concentrated in that particular region. And ASML was a spin-off. It's now one of them. It's the main producer of very complex machine to produce chips. And why is it in Eindhoven and not elsewhere? Because it uses light technologies, it uses computer technologies. It was all there. The capabilities were ready to use. They did it, they benefited from it, and they were able to build a global leader in that particular trade. And that shows to me that, again, you have to exploit the capabilities that you have. Now, almost no other region in Europe could have done this because they lack this type of capabilities, but they might have capabilities in certain green technologies, then they should exploit those. So to me, a point of departure of this type of competitive policy is definitely what type of capabilities, what type of set of opportunities do you have given the capabilities that are around. But it is also about looking at to what type of collaborations can you actually make, because you cannot do everything yourself. You have to connect to other regions in Europe. So even for a region like the Eindhoven region in the Netherlands, they have to collaborate with others. They have to exploit the capabilities that are elsewhere available in Europe. Now, what we actually can observe in Europe is that those complementarities that are around and that we can identify by doing research are not being exploited in Europe. So that is one of the reasons why we have very few champions worldwide, and why China and the US are doing much better. Because they don't have to deal with national borders, and therefore they can exploit the complementarities inside their own country. Well, in Europe we can actually observe that complementarities are often outside your own country. So you have to collaborate internationally within the European Union. But what we observe in reality is that those collaboration patterns have a very strong national bias. So Ile-de-France region, the Paris region, is collaborating with Bordeaux and Toulouse, but not with Germany or Poland or Italy, where the best complementarities are available. So in that sense, Europe is really doing a poor job, is not exploiting the complementarities that are around. So to me, if you really want to build an effective competitiveness agenda, you really have to take into account those two dimensions. Start from capabilities that are present in your region because they provide opportunities. And secondly, you have to collaborate, you have to make international connections in order to exploit the complementarities, and that is what we are not doing in Europe, and that is a big shame, and that is a big loss. So we can do much better if we take that very seriously and we take action in order to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. How can you ensure that the new competitive fund aligns with larger strategic goals? like social cohesion, like sustainability, as well as still driving economic performance?
Yeah, I think it's not easy, right? So definitely I have not a full answer that we can align all those objectives, economic, social, environmental, and we bring them all in line. But let me just give a good example that this can actually be done. And that is if we look at where are the potential of to develop green technologies in Europe. As a surprise to me, we did some research on that 1 or 2 years ago, and we published a report that was assigned by the European Commission. And we found that the less developed regions have the best opportunities to develop green technology. So they have the right capabilities in order to go into that direction. So here you solve a lot of problems, or you can accomplish a lot of objectives at the same time. First of all, it will bring prosperity to less developed regions in Europe because they will create new jobs in those green technologies. Secondly, they will contribute to the Green Deal in Europe, so it will also meet the objectives of the sustainability transition. And thirdly, those are the less developed regions, right? So the low-income regions in Europe. So in terms of cohesion, it would be very good if they could really exploit that fully, because they will grow and it would have consequences for disparities across the regions in Europe. So it would be also good for cohesion. So in that sense, you can actually see, taking such a very concrete example, that you can accomplish the three objectives. And I think this is what Europe should exploit much more.
I want to look at the wider EU policies, and when you're designing any EU policy, how do you take into account more of the territorial differences so that they can be better represented in the design of EU policies?
Yeah, I think it's an absolute prerequisite. Well, I have a background in regional economics, so of course I already take a geographical dimension very seriously. But there also I think that the Draghi report can be criticized on that, not taking very seriously the territorial dimension. Because as I explained already before, capabilities are very much concentrated in particular areas. So you cannot just assume that you can pursue a one-size-fits-all policy, which would be good in Europe, and that we can think about designing a competitive policy without taking into consideration those capabilities that are unevenly distributed across regions in Europe. So that should be the point of departure. And as soon as you do that, you will have much higher chances that you will be successful in creating new emerging technologies, and you can compete with the US and China in that respect. And this is, I think, what should be made part and parcel of competitiveness policy. And this is, I think, what is a bit missing in the Draghi report. So we really should focus more attention on that, because that is exactly, the subnational scale is exactly the right scale to pursue this very effective competitiveness policy.
Well, it's been absolutely fascinating speaking with you, Ron. I could talk for many more hours. It's such an interesting field that you're looking at. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, and speak soon.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.